when Colin Kaepernick started his national anthem protest, it really was just about a personal journey. He did not call a press conference. He did not jump up and down and scream and say, hey, look at me. In fact, he was able to go a full week protesting the national anthem without anybody noticing. It wasn't until that he did it for 2 weeks in a row that someone in the media started to pay attention. Of course, his initial protest was met with opposition, not unlike any other protest with a worthy cause throughout not only our nation's history, but the world's history. Anytime you are going against the status quo, anytime you're going against the grain, it is going to be met with opposition. But eventually it started to grow. And some of his teammates started to, learn about why he was protesting, which was the injustices, the inequalities, the black men and women being killed and shot in the street, seemingly without any recourse. And that's his idea. That's what he's protesting against. And he made that clear once he was asked. It was never and has never been about the military, the servicemen and women, or even the national anthem itself. But after Donald, as LeBron James says, that guy attacked these Americans, these people who wanted to go out and protest, then and only then did the NFL come out and say, we're standing against this. Now, some people like myself might condemn some of the NFL athletes who chose this time to kneel during the national anthem because Donald, that guy, said something that you didn't like. He talked about your mother. He talked about your choice of profession. And so that upset you. When in my eyes, there were many, many, many more reasons prior to that. And as Shannon Sharp said, even more reasons or things that Donald Trump has said far worse than calling NFL athletes SOBs. But it is their right to protest for whatever reason that they feel like. And this is what they decided to unify against. Does that dilute the cause that Colin Kaepernick is kneeling for? No, it doesn't. He is protesting for his reasons, and everybody else is protesting for their own different reasons. They are able to do that because of the First Amendment. And if you've never read the First Amendment, I'm going to read a little bit of it right now. So here we go. First Amendment to the United States Constitution prohibits the making of any law respecting an establishment of religion, ensuring that there is no prohibition on the free exercise of religion, abridging the freedom of speech, infringing on the freedom of the press, interfering with the right to peaceably assemble, or prohibiting the petitioning for a government to redress of whatever grievances that you have. It was adopted on December 15, 1791 as one of the 10 amendments that constitute the Bill of Rights. So this is basically what makes America America. And this is what allows Colin Kaepernick and NFL athletes and whoever else deciding to kneel during the national anthem Our free speech is what allows them to do that. So the question becomes, or I've heard this question, well, when are they going to stop kneeling? Well, what do they want? Well, what's the solution? I don't want you guys to just continue to do this stuff. We need to come together for a solution. Okay, well, let me tell you, first of all, what I'm protesting, okay? And it was because of Colin Kaepernick that I came into this knowledge. I personally am protesting the actual national anthem. I don't think that kneeling is going to necessarily contribute to less police violence. I don't have the statistics, to say, well, once Colin Kaepernick started kneeling, have we seen a decrease in police violence? Have we seen an increase? I don't have those numbers. I don't know that anybody has those numbers. But again, people who want to kneel for that, I'm totally with that, and I totally support you in that. But what I personally have a problem with is the national anthem itself was written by a racist slave owner. Not only was it written by a racist slave owner, it wasn't like the racist slave owner was somehow this great songwriter and poet, and this was just a collection of his greatest hits that somebody decided to turn into the national anthem. No, the poem that he wrote was birthed out of a racist situation. This man did not appreciate being held captive by black British soldiers, people that he deemed to be less than himself, people that he deemed to be traitors to his country, because a lot of these black British soldiers were people who fled from the United States to go and fight with Britain. So the poem was written out of that situation. So we have a poem that's written by a racist slave owner out of a racist situation, meaning that there's a good chance that if all of the soldiers that captured this guy were white, there's a good chance the lyrics would have never been written. And for sure, the third verse where he talks about no slave shall escape the gloom of the grave or the terror by night, that would have never been written. So it was because of Colin Kaepernick that I came into that knowledge. Shame on me for not knowing that in the beginning. But then again, they didn't teach me that in school. So where was I supposed to find that? So once I find that out, I'm like, I'm never standing for the national anthem again. That is my own personal protest. Okay? However, again, if we go back to the First Amendment, you have the right to peaceably protest, no matter what the issue is. So, as you see here, these guys that went out with the fire and marched through the campus shouting, "Jews will not replace us." In America, they had the right to do that. Now, what they didn't have was the right to tear up somebody's property. That wasn't in the First Amendment. But you do have the right to peaceably assemble. Now, whether, them chanting what they were chanting, was that peace? I don't know. You can argue that, probably not. But why is it okay for groups like this to get together and peaceably assemble, quote unquote, but yet when groups like this get together, it's a problem? The same right that gives these clowns a right to protest, my opinion, maybe not yours, is the same right that gives these people a right to protest. And it's the same law that gives these people the right to protest. And it's the same law that gives these people a right to protest. You can kind of see where I'm going here. It doesn't matter what the issue is, whether it's religious freedom or whether it's injustices that you feel are against your race, whether it's health care, whether it's being laid off from your job, or whether it's the poisons that are being put in our food. You are able to protest. In fact, I am frankly surprised that we don't see more protests. With all the things that are going on, with the economic inequality that we have, with the lies that we are told on a regular basis, as I said, with the crap that's being put in our food, and the prices are so high for some people to afford the real stuff, the organic stuff, it almost forces millions of people. It doesn't almost, it definitely forces millions of people to eat the crap that these companies are pouring into our food. I'm surprised we don't see protests at Kroger or Walmart. And for that matter, Whole Foods, as the information has come out, that all the Whole Foods ain't really all Whole Foods. Whether it's prescription drugs or whatever the situation is, in America, guess what? You have the right to protest. So, to answer your question, when are we going to see people stop kneeling? Guess what the answer is? You're not. You're not going to see it stop. You're going to see it increase. You're going to see it expand. Because once people have an idea and once people develop the courage, then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute. You know what? These guys have a good idea. What you see now is pictures all around the world where they don't have the freedom of speech or expression. And where these people could literally be killed for protesting. Literally. And guess what? They're out in huge numbers. Why? Because they were inspired by someone else that they saw. This is what freedom is all about. This is what America is supposed to be about. And the second that you stop seeing people protesting, that is the moment that we cease to be Americans. It's no longer America at that point. Now, you're not going to always agree with whatever those issues are. I'm sure some of you that are watching today, listening today, you don't agree with Colin Kaepernick. And that's fine. Guess what? You don't have to get involved. But what you must do is get out of the way. You must allow people to have the freedom to speak on the issues. Again, as long as it's in a respectful way, you have to give them the right to do that, or you need to find another country to move in. But wait, where can you go? Because these protests are happening all over the world. This is a Black Lives Matter movement in Europe. So I'm sure there's somewhere you can go, but you're going to have to find a place if this makes you uncomfortable. What you should be doing is finding your voice. What you should be doing is doing your research and saying, okay, well, maybe there's something to this. Find a cause that you can get behind. Find an injustice that's important to you.